Hi, I'm David Wharton with the LA Times, and I'm joined by colleague Chris Foster. We are here to talk about the Kings and their big Stanley Cup victory, which just happened over the weekend here. And Chris, first of all, let's talk a little bit about where this team came from in sort of the darker days of the past when you were covering them.
Oh, well, I got reassigned from the Ducks to the Kings in 2005, and I thought I was going from like up to uptown, and I kind of ended up on Skid Row. This was as dysfunctional a franchise back then as I've ever seen. They had problems. They had Sean Avery, who was hated throughout the league. They had Jeremy Roenick, who talked a lot, but people didn't always listen. They had a coach that was part drill sergeant, part pharaoh. It was really a mess. And when that season was over, they just cleaned house. I mean, I make the joke that I fixed the Kings, but what happened is they decided that the years of mediocrity and meandering, they had to address it. They brought in Dean Lombardi, who was the right man, and he's kind of built this franchise up. And you know how he's done it.
Yeah, I mean, the big difference is in the past they had brought in big stars, or at least people they hoped would be big stars from other parts of the league. And of course, Gretzky was a success story and kind of established hockey in a bigger way. But after that, as you know, they had some guys who didn't pan out so well. So Lombardi kind of took it on as his challenge to build this team from within. And so, you look at the team now, and you're looking at the big three, which would be Jonathan Quick and Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty. They were all drafted by the Kings. You had a lot of guys who came up through Manchester, their minor league team. And so this is kind of a homegrown team that they put together piece by piece and sort of nurtured along. And don't you think that makes a big difference?
Well, yeah, they've done it exactly right. What you do is you build from within, and then you fill in gaps. They brought in Marian Gatrick this year. You have a team that you built, and you get down the line in the season, and you're in contention, and then you start looking at what is that thing we need to put us over the top. And I think everybody agrees Gabrick put them over the top.
Yeah, and they had followed this path before in 2012 when they brought in Jeff Carter. And once, as you were saying, they saw a need, and they thought, well, let's just go get this one more piece that will kind of add to the core that we've built, and that's been really successful. What is it about Dean Lombardi that you think makes him so good?
Well, he is as funny sarcastically as any GM I've ever met. That's one thing. True. But he understands the game. He understands the finances of the game, how to do it. And the big thing he understands is draft picks are collateral. They're just not players that are going to help you. They're players that are going to get you other players. So when you draft guys, maybe they don't make the team, maybe they don't have a bigger role in the team, but another team covets them, then you can get people.
And the one piece that we're not talking about, which is really important, is the coach, Darryl Sutter. I mean, they called him, he was on the farm in Alberta, and depending on who you believe, when they first called, he said no, or at least I have to think it over. Yeah. But he came in and he's made a huge difference. And I think one of the things he's done is he's not a real personable guy when it comes to the media.
No, he approaches life like he only has an allotted amount of words he can use, so he uses them as few as possible at any time.
And he must use most of them with the team because he doesn't use hardly any of them with us. But the players all talk about he's earned their respect. He pushes behind the scenes. They know this is not a star-driven team. Right. Everyone's got to work for their minutes on the ice and for what shifts. He hasn't been afraid to take a guy like Captain Dustin Brown and demote him to the third line if he's not producing. And he has built a team that works very, very hard.
No, yes, and it's and again, it's like I said, it goes back to him understanding this was the right man for this spot. I mean, in the old days when I was there, you could get a fight started in the dressing room if you tried to have a competition who hated Andy Murray more. They'd be lining up to volunteer for that spot. And then now you have a coach that even if a player doesn't personally care for him, which I don't know if there is any on this team, but they respect him. And when a coach has respect, players produce for them.
And you can tell that respect because when you listen to the players talk, they use a lot of the same catchphrases that Sutter does. And it's all about team. It's all about playing structured hockey, knowing where your place is on the ice at any given time. And one of the things that I think the rest of the league is catching up with now, they knew it before, but it's proven again to be so successful, is Sutter always says, we don't play defense, we check, which means you put body on body. And that's what's really hurting a lot of these teams that skate a lot, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. They're a very physical team, and that again comes from Lombardi, who follows the traditional pattern that you build a team from the back. You get a goaltender, you get defensemen, and then you bring in the forwards to to do the scoring. So this team really is a defensive-oriented team that just happens to score a lot of goals at times.
And you have to wonder if that's helped in this historic playoff run in which they faced so many elimination games, down 0-3 to the Sharks in the first round, down 2-3 to the Ducks, fighting back against Chicago. I mean, that defense, I think it gave the players the sense that no matter where they were at in a series or in a game, they could come back and they could stop the other team and give themselves time to score those goals to come back.
Yeah, that is. And then you throw in Jonathan Quick, who's perfectly capable of tossing a shutout at people. And you have a team that doesn't get scared when they're in trouble.
One more thing, and let's do this quickly. Kings a dynasty?
Well, they've won 2 in 3 years. The last team to win back-to-back titles was the Red Wings in 97, 98. So I guess when you define dynasty now, yeah, you could look at them as being a dynasty.
Okay, well, that's our Kings Talk for today. And if you'd like to read more about the Kings, please join us on latimes.com, and you can catch up with Chris and I on Twitter.